I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? You know what time it is. It's Monday. We got a show. We're back. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend. And you're ready for some news. You're ready for some news. You're ready for some politics. You're ready for some insanity. And of course, corruption. Yes, we're going to talk about corruption. Because it turns out we got some corruption. Do we not? Always. All right, so now we got Mark Meadows attacks on Trump. We got Jared Kushner getting billions and billions of dollars from, you guessed it, the Saudis. Fun times. We have real estate lobbyists that are trying to stop money laundering. And then, of course, we have a pro-labor story. We're going to be talking about that as well. We have a Starbucks barista challenging Howard Schultz. Fun. So that's going to be a fun story here. We're going to talk about that. Oh, and of course, we do have, make fun of well, you know what? Actually, no, we're not going to make fun of him. Well, maybe a little bit. But there's a MAGA supporter who had a hard time when challenged on his own beliefs. I know, big surprise, right? Had a hard time answering a question. And we're going to show you that video. I'm sure you've probably already seen it, but I want to break it down here and tie it in. It's something that I didn't get to cover last week. So very, very interested in doing so. Now, first, before we dive in, please like and share the stream. Very, very important that you do so. Helps us out greatly. Really, really appreciate it when you do. Yeah. We need all the help that we can get, as always, in getting out the message. You know how YouTube is. Those algorithms, as always. So let me just do something here real quick before we get started. Just want to bring the chat up here so I can see it a little bit better. All right. We'll start out, though, the show with Trump Jr. and a few texts. All right. We have more information about the widespread conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, this is not a conspiracy like you would think, or I should say what the popular narrative on the right is that Joe Biden somehow got voter fraud and didn't actually win the election. Trump won. No, that's all BS. No, the real conspiracy was Trump and people like Don Jr., Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, all getting together and trying to steal the 2020 election. Now, once again, we have from the text records of Mark Meadows, one Don Jr. sending him strategies and ideas on how to overturn the election. Now, here's what he said in the text here. Quote, "This is what we need to do. Please read it. And please get it to everyone that needs to see it, because I'm not sure we're doing it. It's very simple. We have multiple paths. We control them all." Now think about that for a second. We have multiple paths and we control them all. What is this a reference to? Well, one of them would be fake electors. People who claim to be state electors who would vote for Trump in the Electoral College, despite, of course, Trump maybe not winning that state. Did you not win Michigan? Okay, it doesn't matter. We're going to send fake electors anyway that are going to claim that Donald Trump won in reality, and the numbers are wrong because there had to have been fraud. And that's what it is. It was fraud. Yes, that's it. And Donald Trump's a real winner. Please ignore the evidence, ignore the actual numbers that show that Joe Biden got a little bit more, got millions more votes. Doesn't matter. Trump won because we say it is. Trust me, bro. No, we're not going to trust you. There's no reason to trust you. And so, nonetheless, they sent out those fake electors. Some had stolen official state seals in order to try to make their paperwork look legitimate. They weren't. And of course, they were waiting essentially to take advantage of the chaos had Pence not voted to certify the election. If Pence had joined the 147 other Republicans in Congress in rejecting the certification, conservative media would have blasted the news of it nonstop. That was the plan, in the hopes that it would muddy the water. And essentially, when they do that, muddy the water, it would try to put enough doubt into the average person's mind that there was some problem with the election, that it wasn't legitimate, that the votes were illegitimate, and that we either need to try again, which is what Trump says that he would have done. Oh, we would have had another election. Are you entirely certain that that would have been the case? Now, I don't think a lot of people talk about that. The refrain is, but don't worry. This wasn't to take over. We just wanted to redo the election, which is unprecedented, by the way. Never happened before. And we're going to redo the election, and then this time we'll accept the results. Okay, what if you lose again? Well, then we're going to redo it again. Well, what about after that? We're going to redo it. Okay, fine. We're not going to redo it. We're just going to win forever. That's it. Unless it shows 90% of the vote going to Trump, then it's illegitimate. Well, we see where they're going with this. We see that that's the ultimate thing that they want to do. And so, again, these people were trying to steal an election. Now, you combine, by the way, that with the numerous challenges on the courts that were rejected by the courts, even conservative Trump-appointed justices that were rejecting this. And by the way, they were even attempting to try to turn it to the Supreme Court. Again, we have text from Ginny Thomas as well. That's the wife of Justice Clarence Thomas, who did not recuse himself, did not have to recuse himself. And so they go and basically they're going to try, or they were going to try, and had tried to, at first elevate the big lie, and then take it to the courts to try to annul the victory, take it to Congress to try to annul the victory, anything that they could do to try to reinstate Donald Trump as president. It's amazing. And we know this because it is this multifaceted conspiracy known as the Green Bay Sweep. Now, this is what Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon openly talked about. They just bragged about it. Yeah, of course, Green Bay Sweep. This is what we wanted to do. We were going to steal an election. Oh, interesting. Now, that means that everybody who listened to them knew about this. They knew about it. And so if they actually did these things, which we have a lot of evidence of, well, wouldn't that mean that they're complicit in a conspiracy in order to steal an election? Now, that said, CNN said the text was sent on November 5th, 2020, 2 days before Biden was declared the winner of the election and the next president. So my guess is that, look, Don Jr. was like, oh, crap. We know that Donald Trump was going to lose Therefore, we're just going to try to steal it before. Oh, right. Okay. Now, according to CNN in his text to Meadows, Trump Jr. laid out the strategies. CNN also said that Trump Jr. suggested that if the measures did not work, lawmakers in Congress should dismiss the electoral results and just vote to keep Trump in office. Let's just ignore the electors. And let's, ignore the will of the people as well, who voted. Let's just let Congress decide. Yes, of course, because that's a great democracy. Well, we don't have a democracy. In fact, this is possible, and that's what's messed up. All right? Look, I think that we need to abolish the Electoral College. I think we should have let the people decide the elections. In fact, had it been this way, Donald Trump would have never been president if it had not been for the Electoral College in 2016. Let's be fair, right? Let's point that out. Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Trump. It was the Electoral College. What the Electoral College is affirmative action for Republicans. That's what it is. It's the participation trophy of participation trophies. Except the only problem is they get to decide because, these small swing states with not many people in them, they get to decide who our president is, who our leader is. So a little bit more important than a participation trophy, but that's what they get. That's what they get. Nobody complains about that. Not even the Democrats talk about that, how we should get rid of the Electoral College. It's very, very rare that you hear them talk about this. And of course, I think that comes to Democratic weakness. But remember, the whole purpose of the Electoral College was to protect the more sparsely populated conservative states from being overruled by the more populous blue states, i.e. to block direct democracy in order to give in to make these Republican red states join the union and stay in the union. Because again, somehow places containing more people, the majority should have less power than the minority. Unfortunately, that's how it works today. We coddle the right-wing minority, and they seize all the levers of power and ensure the majority never get true representation and never get anything that they want. Now back to Junior. Now Junior had an excuse. Well, at least his lawyer did. His lawyer, Alan Futerfas? I don't know how to say his name. Here's what he said to CNN. After the election, Don received numerous messages from supporters and others. Given the date, this message likely originated from someone else and was forwarded. And? Oh, so Donald Trump Jr. didn't write it, according to him, but he liked that message and sent it along anyway. That message that supported overturning the will of the people and overturning an election based on nothing. Does that make it better? Again, if it was not his message, he at least agreed with it. Because he didn't say anything like, oh, look at this terrible crap. I can't believe they're trying to pull this. At least that would give him some sort of cover, right? But no. If it's not his, he still agrees with it, and that's still pretty bad. But look, this tells me again that Trump Jr. and likely Donald Trump, because come on, honestly, many others were still planning this ahead of time. Donald Trump had laid the groundwork for the whole big lie for years. During his administration, if I lose, it's because of voter fraud. It's because of this, it's because of that. It's not because I did a terrible job with COVID, and I just did a terrible job in general, and I was very unpopular and won without the majority of votes. No, it was voter fraud. It was something else. Yes, it was their fault, not my fault, never. What do you mean I'm not a loser? I can never be a loser. I can't lose. The L word does not exist in my vocabulary. I'm sorry, he can't even say vocabulary. Very doubtful. But look, this is why last month, a federal judge pointed out that Trump likely committed multiple felonies. Quote, based on the evidence, the court finds that it is more likely than not that President Trump and Dr. John Eastman, a law professor who had advised Trump, put out the Eastman memo, dishonestly conspired to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021. Judge David Carter ruled. Carter also described Trump's scheme as a, quote, coup in search of a legal theory. Look, it may have been a soft coup, but guess what? A coup is a coup, soft or not. By the way, soft is trying to usurp electoral power. Hard, of course, is where you break out the violence. And look, to be fair, some of what happened in the January 6th riot could be considered hard and a definite coup attempt. And so, look, they tried to steal an election overall. And then when they failed, interestingly enough, well, they blame the other side for it, obviously. Obviously. Oh, no, it was them. It was Antifa. It was the FBI. It was somebody else. It was the deep state. Yes, it was a deep state that I was doing such a good job at exposing. It was the it was a QAnon. I was supposed. Sorry, not QAnon. It was pedophiles. That's what it was. Yes. And I'm the head of QAnon, and I'm going to arrest everybody. The storm will happen. No storm. No storm. Just stupid. Just stupid. You guys did it. That's your conspiracy. And thank goodness they failed. We might not be so lucky next time. All right. More. This is legal experts that weighed in. Here's Lawrence Tribe, a Harvard law professor. Here's what he wrote. This text is a smoking rifle. Glenn Kirshner, former prosecutor, now an analyst for NBC, went further, saying the subject line of Don Jr.'s email might have well been, I'm a member of my father's criminal conspiracy to overturn the election. How long do we have to endure this open treasonous criminality by Trump and the company before someone gets indicted? Well, now look, that's the question, right? Yes, the first part, obviously, criminal conspiracy. But when is anybody going to get held accountable? I don't know. I don't think it will. The Republican Party, unfortunately, will never hold Donald Trump accountable. No. They are the Donald Trump defense squad. It's amazing. This is not something that the Republican Party cares about, especially the Republican voter. But the party itself, they only care about power. And guess what? Power these days now means never giving in to the other side at all. Don't give them an inch. Even if they're right, even if we're 100% wrong, and yes, we tried to overturn an election, we will still never give the Democrats any power at all. You know why? Because it's all about power. I mean, when you say it that way, boy, it's kind of stupid to give the other side power, wouldn't it be? That's exactly how the Republicans think. Why would we ever give Democrats power? We hate them. We think they're, drinking the blood of children. Why would we ever give those people power? That's what they believe. I know, complete and utter insanity, but so they'll never give the Democrats any power. They'll always take more and more and more for themselves, even if they have the lie to do it. Especially if they have the lie to do it, because they have no qualms about lying at all, ever. Now, as far as Democrats we have seen will empower the other side every single day, all day long. They're going to reach out, they'll bend over backwards, or they'll just bend over to Republicans because they think that makes them somehow better. Hey, look at us, we're being bipartisan. What? No, that's not what that means. Giving Republicans everything they want is not being bipartisan. No, it just makes them weak. And the Republican Party right now, the modern Republican Party preys on weakness. And the Democratic Party has that in spades. So the question, of course, for that is why are the Democrats so weak? How are they so weak? Now, does the money make them weak? Or does the moneyed interests, do the moneyed interests intentionally find weak Democrats, shower them with cash, flood them with cash, and of course advertising, and then of course do the most aggressive smears against progressives, against people who will actually fight Republicans, and they get those people into power, the weak ones, so that the weak ones will kowtow to Republicans, and eventually allow Republicans to take power and then give the donors what? Tax cuts, deregulation, and more power, corporate rule. Either way, whether it be, the classic chicken or the egg question, does the money fuel the weakness or is the weakness elevated by the money? It doesn't really matter at this point, because you end up with weak Democrats like Merrick Garland, for example. Merrick Garland hasn't gone after Donald Trump, and I don't think he will. They barely touched Steve Bannon. They barely touched Peter Navarro, openly admitting that, we're not going to go after them, even though they're in criminal contempt. We should throw them in jail. They should be in a prison cell right now for refusing to, follow the subpoenas, to follow what they're supposed to do. But we don't do that. We don't throw people, rich people, powerful people in jail. That doesn't happen in this country. Now, if you're poor, you're very likely to go to jail over little things, small things. You're more likely to go to jail for stealing a $10, something from a store for $10 than you are if you're a millionaire and you defraud millions of people out of hundreds of millions of dollars. If this whole thing is not stopped, it's going to get worse. And I'm really trying to warn people here. It's going to get worse if they don't do something. Because if you don't learn your lesson once, if they're not taught once, if they're not prevented from doing this again, somehow, then they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. 2024 is the next thing. Donald Trump's going to run for president. And Republicans will continue to try to steal more power. And unfortunately, Democrats will roll over for it. So I'm really, really concerned about what's going to happen here. 2024, looks like it could possibly be far worse than we could imagine. Maybe not. I'm hoping not. But I'm worried, and I think we should all be worried. And I don't want to be one of those people that says, just go out and vote. Yeah, that's the only thing that's going to save you. No, I'm not saying not go out and vote. No, tactical voting, direct action. Direct action, doing what you can to pressure from the outside, and voting tactically. That's the best thing I can come up with right now in this current system, which is, again, stacked electorally against people that are outsiders, progressives, anything like that, and against outside movements. But we got to take what options are available to us that we can. So, all right. Gotta stop supporting duopoly. What do you actually suggest doing? What's the real solution then? Honestly, I'm asking honestly, because I don't see what the yelling about the duopoly is actually doing. You're throwing around buzzwords and slogans that don't do anything. If there's a direct action that you would like people to take, that is feasible for people to take, then do it. Then promote it, please. But screaming and yelling about, the duopoly is bad. Okay, great. We all agree with that. So what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What kind of actions are there? Direct action. Good. I've already promoted that. Yes, let's do direct action. Let's go. Other than that, though, you're going to, that's the other thing, too. If you're going to talk about the real solution is not an electoralism, that's why you should vote for a third party. That's electoralism. That doesn't solve the problem either. No, the problem is you have a system that is hostile to third parties. We don't live in a parliamentary system. We don't have third party. God, I wish we had a third party that was viable. Either you have to annihilate one of the parties to take the other's place, or else you're not going to have a viable, third party. It's just not. It's not something that is workable in our current system. So what is the answer? What is the answer? What can somebody do? That's the question. And I don't think we on the left have an answer for it, honestly. I see a lot of buzzwords. I see a lot of general strike this and that. Oh, that's great. Okay, let's actually build a solid movement, a solid foundation with the aims of doing that. Well, where is that? Where's the mutual aid? How are people going to sustain themselves if you don't have infrastructures in place in order to make sure people have food, cannot get kicked out in the street, have legal bills paid for, representation? Where are those resources coming from? They're not going to magically, come out of thin air. So where's the solution to that? What is the solution to that? I need everybody to think long and hard about this and stop putting out slogans, because I'm tired of slogans. I'm tired of bullshit. Where are the solutions? And how? And by the way, how are we as a leftist movement that takes every single opportunity to shred each other for Twitter clout and call each other CIA, shill, bring to CIA, you guys are CIA, you're CIA, you're CIA. How do you expect that movement to get together and actually be able to push for these things, to push for reform, to actually do something to challenge the duopoly, right? How do you expect that to happen when we sit here and rip each other apart? No. There has to be a mutual understanding. There has to be people that have decided to work together, and you have to have this underlying support. Mutual aid networks, working at the local level, fighting together, not fighting each other, fighting together in order to push these things through direct action. That's the only thing that I can think of. And you know what? Maybe there are other great ideas that I'm not aware of, that I haven't thought of. And I'd love to hear it. But what I'm tired of hearing is buzzwords. What I'm tired of hearing is a complete rejection of even tactical voting, which I think does have a use for it. Electoralism, you're right, electoralism is not going to save us. And because it has never, and it won't ever. But God damn it, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do tactical voting to ensure the worst people don't get into power too, which will hamper your movement even further from the levers of power. There's not a magic bullet. It's going to take constant effort to chip away. Yeah. Twitter clout's the best clout. You shut down people you don't agree with, and yet you're still talking for some reason, and I'm still talking and answering you. So I don't understand. Oh, I'm shutting you down by disagreeing with you. Low effort. Do better. I'm trying to argue with you, and you're coming out with just consistent buzzwords with no answers. No answers. I want answers. Give me real answers. I'm tired of slogans. Just tired of slogans. Oh God, no, I do not want to run for, I don't want to run for any office much less one on a third party. I'll pass, thank you. All right. Let's move on. Oh, okay. Nope. No, that's the worst idea I've ever seen. You're going to have to join with people on the right over financial. People on the right don't agree with us on financial things. That's the thing. We don't have. I'm tired of the red-brown shit too. You understand that they want to murder trans people and gay people, right? And not have them exist. That's one thing. Okay? That's one thing. The second thing is, when has the right, the so-called populist right, ever actually fought for something that is favored by the populist left? When has that ever happened? Have they ever come through, delivered any votes? Have they come through and ever done any movements? No, there's no actual populist movement on the right wing. It's fake populism that is essentially there to cover up for fascism. Okay. The right doesn't agree with their own stated priorities. Well, they really don't. They really don't. Even stuff that would help them. No, if it helps a black person or helps a gay person or trans person, we're not interested. All right. Let's do a palate cleanser, huh? A Trump supporter recently got stumped over his belief that Antifa was responsible for January 6th. So now here's a video from The Good Liars. This is Jason Selvig asking a man at a Trump rally in Michigan what was going on January 6th, what he thought happened.
How do you all feel about the events of January 6th?
A lot of that was Antifa.
Really?
Yes.
Why would Antifa interrupt the certification of an election in which their candidate won? Wouldn't they want him to be certified?
They just want to disrupt in any way possible.
Do you think Antifa wanted him to be president? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah. So why would they interrupt the certification of the vote on January 6th?
I have a different view of things.
Well, it's just like if you have a.
Yeah, it
Doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would they do that?
well,
Broken. Brain not working. Had to go into safe mode, recovery. Too many high-level ideas. Watch too many Dave Rubin videos. Come on. Really? Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Understand, though, that this is what happens when someone's brain is so deep into propaganda. And when they're in this propaganda are actually asked to explain something that they have heard. Again, it goes down to the phrases, the buzzwords, things like that. Remember, there's no actual explanation of why Antifa would want to protest the certification of Joe Biden. They would be more in favor of Joe Biden, or at least a little bit more aligned with Joe Biden on some things, or at least they wouldn't be antagonistic towards Biden. In fact, if anything, Antifa is antagonistic towards the right wing or the fascists. It would be completely illogical. And yet when this conspiracy theory gets spread online, well, guess what it doesn't come with? An explanation of why it would possibly make sense. I mean, just, oh no, it was Antifa, it wasn't us, it was the FBI, it was somebody else, it wasn't us. Anyway, moving on. Well, those same people, by the way, are the same ones that spread things like, the old real American patriots. We stand up against the government. That's what we do. We need to march on Washington and show them that we are not the silent. The tree of liberty will be watered with the blood of tyrants when we take down those communists in the White House. They've destroyed America. We've got to take them down. Okay, those same people are saying, so you also didn't march on Washington. You weren't there that day, right? To support Donald Trump and to take on the communists in the White House. No, it wasn't us. It was Antifa. See, Antifa, whose guy won, except that he didn't win because but everybody said that he won because he stole the election. But then Antifa showed up to protest against the certification of the election that they won. And oh shit, that does not compute. Brain is broken. What? I mean, in order to understand this, you've got to really tie yourself into pretzels, which are a delicious salty snack. I don't know where that came from. But look, understand that, like, as they tie themselves into little knots, they do so because they're echoing what they have heard from Fox News. I mean, that's the Fox News effect. Fox News is right-wing propaganda. Now, I'm not saying that media doesn't have a bias, right? Of course, all media has a bias. Fox News, though, was specifically designed not as a news organization, but as a propaganda outlet. It's essentially Republican state TV. And so now, when it comes to what happened on January 6th, well, I've showed you the videos before. Laura Ingraham, what did she say? Antifa. Okay, what did Tucker Carlson say? Antifa, and then FBI. To be fair, FBI, right? Oh, it's the FBI, the deep state. Okay, why would they do that? Why would the FBI do that? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, the FBI is a conservative organization. In fact, most of law enforcement, I should say all of law enforcement, is inherently right-wing and filled with right-wingers. Oh, yes, but they go back to Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, whatever, who are like, oh, we don't like Trump. We also don't like Bernie. We don't like anybody that's running for the election. And that somehow they leave all that other stuff out and just say, well, they're coming after Donald Trump because they didn't like him. Oh, okay. Sure. Now, at the same time, going back to Fox News, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, now the conservative media, and I see comments like this all the time too, all the Democrats have it January 6th. Nobody actually really cares about it. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. January 6th, nobody cares. Move on. Go. Get over it. Okay, well, first you should probably get over the fact that Donald Trump lost and stop calling it a conspiracy for Democrats to steal the election. Oh, right. Yeah. No, again, it's the squirrel thing. Squirrel. And so, honestly, when people hear that, when right-wingers hear that, they don't care about the facts. They're not going to look into it. They're not going to look in to see the fact that, for example, investigations have found that there was absolutely no Antifa involvement on January 6th. But Fox News says it's Antifa. And so I guess it's Antifa. I never gave it a second thought. They never did. And that's why the recent study, by the way, was so fascinating. What they did is that they took a bunch of Fox viewers and they paid them to watch CNN. Now, what happened when they started watching CNN? Well, they started becoming more skeptical of what they heard on the TV. Now, that's interesting because, first of all, you're paying them to watch CNN. Obviously, for CNN, they're going to be more skeptical. But another thing happened as well. Because obviously they're not going to believe everything that they hear on CNN, which is good. I think we should all be a little bit skeptical of the media, especially, corporate media, independent media, it doesn't matter. We should all be really skeptical and, endeavor, I should say, to look up the facts on our own. So long as you get them from fact-based places. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful too, because you don't know what's real and what's not. And so not to get down this rabbit hole too much, just be a skeptical eye, but don't be too much of a skeptic that your brain falls out and you don't believe in objective reality. Now, but what I said on that, when it came to this study where they paid people to watch different media, Well, they started believing in things that were objectively true. And they stopped buying into as much fake news. And I think it's a really good, very interesting thing that happened, phenomenon, if you will. They're like, oh yeah, I do believe in objective facts. Also, I think that if it made Donald Trump or Republicans look bad, we also think that Fox News wouldn't report it. Because there's so much stuff that we're seeing that Fox News wouldn't report. Wow, it's really interesting. All that stuff has to be negative about Trump. Ah, very strange. Very strange. Now, that's what happens when you stop watching Fox News. And by the way, it doesn't make you any less conservative. Those same people ended up going back to Fox News for their main media. You know, it kind of, again, shows that they didn't lose their conservative beliefs, but they were just exposed to facts and reality. Apparently, they didn't like it that much, and so ended up going back to Fox News to continue their same media diet of BS. But it does to show you the differences here in that, and what people believe, and versus what is actually true. It is absolutely fascinating. Okay. Let's go to Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is apparently cashing in, and cashing in quite well. That's following his father-in-law's ouster from the White House. In fact, about 6 months following the Trump loss in the election, Kushner was approached and finalized a deal with Saudi Arabia. Oh, look at that. In fact, he reportedly received a $2 billion investment from Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So now, this comes from the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and according to the New York Times, Kushner's firm Affinity Partners had made the deal shortly after Trump left office. The Times reported last fall that Mr. Kushner had been seeking the Saudi investment. Now, the internal fund records and correspondence obtained by the Times shows the outcome, scale, and timing of the firm's deal, as well as the debate that it aroused. Now, I'll go to the debate here that they're talking about. Now, these documents and other filings indicate that at this point, Mr. Kushner's venture now depends primarily on Saudi money. So he had shopped around. He had been like, oh, we're going to get different investors. We're going to get foreign investors. And they did. They mostly got foreign investors, with the bulk being Saudi Arabia. Interesting. Now, Salman himself, by the way, is the one that made the decision. Salman is on the fund's board of directors, and he's actually the head. And the Saudi Investment Fund Review Panel had voiced some concerns about the deal, citing Kushner's inexperience and a due diligence review that was, quote, unsatisfactory in all aspects. Now, that was the board. Mohammed bin Salman said, no, we really don't care. I don't give a shit. Let's go with it anyway. Let's give Kushner $2 billion in investment. Now, there's a letter written by fund staff to a board member who dissented, cited aims to form a strategic relationship with Affinity Partners Fund and its founder, Jared Kushner, in going ahead with the deal. Kushner, of course, had worked as a top Trump White House aide and built a relationship with the Crown Prince while in office, including while working on something called the Abraham Accords that led to 4 Arab states establishing diplomatic relations with Israel. The Saudi documents obtained by the Times say that in return for its investment, the Saudi fund would receive a stake of at least 28% in Mr. Kushner's main investment vehicle. Now, that basically means that Saudi Arabia is going to have a much bigger influence on Jared Kushner when it comes to his money. Interesting. Now, look, that I think is a potential conflict of interest here. Donald Trump, of course, is running the plan, is planning to run for president again, at least as far as I know. And I'm wondering if that means that the Saudis are trying to buy influence. Very likely Kushner is going to be back in the White House if Donald Trump wins in 2024. Again, that's an if. So I don't know. That seems problematic. Now, what's funny is there's already a pattern of Saudi influence in the Trump White House that had happened. In fact, nobody defended the Saudis more than Jared Kushner, even when it was shown that Salman had ordered the death of a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. Remember, this is a guy they hacked to pieces and tried to stuff his dismembered body into a suitcase and smuggle it out. That's what happened. Alongside with that, you also had Kushner brokering a $110 billion weapons sales to Saudi Arabia over 10 years. Those weapons are currently being used in Yemen to kill innocent civilians. Hey, but the U.S. backs the Saudi coalition, backed them during the Trump administration, still backs them now under the Biden administration. So, you know, hey, that money, I guess it does buy influence. Weird. Now, Walter Schaub, director of the U.S. Office of Government Ethics during the Obama administration, tweeted this about the Kushner deal. Kushner may have influenced U.S. policy during his time in office to benefit potential future business plans. Quote, makes you wonder if Jared did something with his official authority for MBS before leaving government to earn that investment. Well, I just mentioned that he helped do the arms sales and defended Mohammed bin Salman. Trump himself had defended Mohammed bin Salman. And so there you have that. Brookings Institution fellow Norm Eisen, a former Democratic official and co-founder of the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, tweeted this. This is corruption. Angel investor Jason Calacanis posted this. They're all grifters. We probably need to ban kids, including daughters and sons-in-law of presidents, from being involved during their parents' terms. If they're qualified, let them serve under the next president and earn their slots. But then how would all these failed sons and failed daughters make any money if they can't coast to a position or money off their daddy's names? And by the way, if you're a conservative who's watching this, and I'm sure some people are, you may be furiously hate typing, what about Hunter Biden? What about Hunter Biden? Now, did Hunter Biden make money off his dad's name? You goddamn right he did. Yes. Is that a potential conflict of interest? Yeah. Now, did he shape Biden policy? No. Was he part of the administration? No. He wasn't a part of the Obama administration, where Biden was vice president, and he's not part of the Biden administration now. So, again, the possibility that maybe being the son is a little bit of an influence on foreign policy, maybe, but right now there's currently no evidence of that happening. Now, I mean, and by the way, saying, well, yeah, this is an example of corruption. Yeah, well, of course, it's corruption. And there's nepotism, especially with the Trump administration. But there's always an issue of families cashing in on, and getting special deals and special treatment by foreign investors, especially, but not always, in any administration, any family. And so, okay, you want to point that out. Hey, the Ukrainians, Burisma and China, well, they tried to influence Joe Biden by getting through his son and giving his son special positions. Okay, so show me anywhere where that has influenced policy in the Biden administration. Because that's important. I don't want foreign governments to have any undue influence in our administration or any administration, Democrats or Republicans or whatever. And so, yeah, I don't want that happening. I don't want there to be, be clear rules and things that ensure that they don't buy influence. But again, you look at the Trump administration, you had Kushner that was literally in the White House and had direct impact on administration policies towards Saudi Arabia. That's direct. That's nowhere near. Hunter Biden is nowhere near that. So, I mean, and that's understand what makes this way different. Again, you're going to have countries that are going to try to influence politicians by buying off their kids. Yes. That's definitely something that they should put a stop to. Absolutely. But again, in the Obama and Biden administration and now the Biden-Harris administration, there hasn't been a nepotism issue. Okay? And so there's no advisor, again, Hunter Biden is not an advisor to Joe Biden, his dad, when it comes to policy. And so trying to, deflect from this issue, which is a clear and obvious corruption, with the personal corruption of Hunter Biden, doesn't really make any sense. Now, again, Hunter Biden's been a very, very bad boy. And of course that can be addressed. But does that have anything to do, any bearing on the current administration? No, it doesn't. Again, personal corruption aside, unless you can show me exact proof of, hey, this is what policy position that was decided in the Biden administration, thanks to influence through Hunter Biden being paid off by China or Ukraine or anything like that, well, then that's a conversation that we can absolutely have. And yes, it would be corruption. And it would be hugely problematic. But so far, nothing's really materialized on that. And so, look, this, however, we do have evidence, $2 billion worth of it, that there is a direct payoff for the Saudis' investments. And so, there you go. Emoluments. Whoever goes after anybody for emoluments, nobody does, unfortunately. Moving on, let's go to money laundering. Real estate lobbyists are fighting tooth and nail to prevent legislation that would help expose money laundering in our real estate industry. So now this is according to Politico. Washington lawmakers have been working on some legislation for some time to expose the identities of foreign nationals who have been purchasing billions of dollars of U.S. real estate every year, using it, of course, to hide their money. Politico reports that House Financial Services Chair Maxine Waters soon plans to introduce legislation to strengthen anti-corruption laws related to the industry. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is also pressuring the Treasury, known as Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, to craft strict rules to cut down on money laundering through property holdings. All right, so now White House told Politico, quote, American real estate can't be a dark repository for oligarch money. Now, I hope that also extends to American oligarchs. I know they don't like it when we call them that, but functionally there seems to be no difference. In America, we just call them billionaires or entrepreneurs or job creators. In reality, we know that the billionaires in the United States have an incredibly outsized role in and influence in our political system. And so I don't think it's wrong at all to call them oligarchs. Now, that said, real estate is their preferred method, whether it be foreign oligarchs or domestic, tend to use real estate as a vehicle for transferring large sums of money from some of their ill-gotten gains. Saudis overpaying Trump for apartments, for example, that's one. But more broadly, of course, you have drug cartels, human traffickers, terrorists, that routinely use the industry to hide their money from scrutiny. Now, one example here you have is a Ukrainian oligarch named Ihor Kolomoisky, whose case is cited in Global Financial Integrity, a Washington-based think tank, one of their reports. Now, what this man had done was amassed a Midwest real estate empire with his associates, at one time becoming Cleveland's largest commercial landlord, leaving behind a trail of unpaid property taxes, unemployed workers, and dangerous factory conditions. Kolomoisky has since been sanctioned by the U.S. State Department, but again, that's a good example. This guy was essentially a slumlord, a lot like Jared Kushner, for example. But look, what allows these people and using these fake shell companies to launder billions of dollars, from their ill-gotten gains to essentially hide this money? What allows them to do that? Well, it's the lack of regulation, the lack of transparency. So now this bill does attempt to do some of that. It basically makes it so that the money is transparent, so that we have a person that we can point to who's receiving the money, who's sending the money, who's involved with this money, who's the owner of the property even. And so right now, you really don't know a lot of that information. It's amazing how much they can actually hide from authorities. In fact, under today's laws, anyone, including a foreign national, can form an anonymous company, shell company, and have that entity use cash to purchase residential or commercial real estate. And we do not have to find out who is running that company, who's actually putting the money through that fake corporation. So right now, if you want to launder money and shield it from taxation, well, then all you have to do is go to the United States. Now, what do realtors have to do with this? Well, realtors obviously make money from those transactions. A lot of it sometimes. According to its own industry research, foreigners made up about 8.6% of all commercial buyers in 2021, and 59% of commercial real estate transactions in the U.S. that included buyers from overseas involved all cash purchases between 2016 and 2020. In addition, regulators are drafting rules to comply with Corporate Transparency Act, which Congress passed in January 2021 over President Trump's veto. Now, that's funny because, wait, what did President Trump get, what industry was he from again? I mean, he wasn't just a reality TV star. No, real estate. Real estate. How do you make a lot of money? Money laundering. Allowing people to launder money through your real estate. So now, it's not surprising that Donald Trump would veto that, because that would actually personally affect his money. Now, these reporting requirements, by the way, in this piece of legislation would be basically, you would have somebody called a beneficial owner, right? And this legislation would basically name that person. Beneficial owner. Instead of anonymous owner of shell corporation that we cannot name, this is the beneficial owner, this person, who is funneling all this money through. So now, the problem with that for the National Association of Realtors is they're saying, oh, no, that could affect us, our money, somehow. That's why they're calling for tailored reforms that address specific issues. In fact, this is spokesperson Patrick Newton saying, this approach focuses on illegal activity while minimizing any negative impact on the real estate economy, which makes up nearly 1/5 of the overall U.S. economy. NAR has confidence that targeted and effective policy will prevail in the rulemaking process. Now, of course, we know how this goes. Lobbyists come in and they take whatever rule is there and they make it toothless. Toothless, unenforceable. So that's what's going to be, that's what's going to happen. Very likely. Again, you think any of these companies that make money off this care about where it comes from? No, that's why they hate this reporting requirement. This beneficial owners, right? They don't want transparency. They do not want you to know who that beneficial owner is. Because what if it turns out to be a drug lord? What if it turns out to be, in this case, a Russian oligarch? Now, again, these rules were drafted before, but since the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian government, well, the United States has been like, oh, well, we really don't want the Russian oligarchs to, be able to buy up all this property and launder their money to the United States. That'd be a bad thing. Well, it's a bad thing if they do it. It's a bad thing if the, Israeli government has done that. It'd be a bad thing if the Saudi government's done that. It'd be bad if any government has done that. The Iranian government, I mean, you name it. Venezuela, right? I wouldn't care if Venezuela did it. It's wrong.
In Venezuela.
So let's not do that. Let's have rules that prevent money laundering. It's so simple. Yes, I'm against corruption. Very strange. Very strange to see that, right? At least in this government. But look, that's the thing. Okay, what looks bad here is, again, if you have these people that are able to use the flaws in our system, the weaknesses in the system that they have pushed, by the way, that again, conservative Democrats, corporate Republicans, which are basically all Republicans at this point, they have pushed to make sure that we do not have these requirements, that we don't even have the basic level of who is actually behind this money. They want to be able to hide the money. Now, what's interesting here is that the association before had endorsed expanding FinCEN and their real estate reporting program. Now, it's something known as geographic targeting orders, but then opposes applying the anti-money laundering rules already in place for banks to real estate industry professionals. Now, it's interesting. So we're going to allow, so we're going to make it so that banks are subject to enhanced rules to prevent them from doing money laundering through the banks. Okay, that's great. But real estate that also deals with very, very large sums of money, just like banking, and can make it very easy, a very lucrative target for money laundering, we're just going to not be in favor of those anti-money laundering rules, because that's too much. That's too much. Really. Now, they, by the way, okay, so let's go to FinCEN here back in December, who had issued advanced notice of plans to craft regulation, extending these anti-money laundering rules to real estate. Part of the Biden administration's broader strategy on countering corruption by imposing new record-keeping and reporting requirements on all cash purchases. To show you how big this is, in 2021, all cash acquisitions actually accounted for about 23% of existing home purchases, or about $518 billion of transactions, according to NAR data. The industry estimates the suspicious transactions account for only a tiny percentage of that amount. But still, I don't know, it's pretty suspicious when they have hundreds of millions of dollars in cash purchases. But since then, since 2016, FinCEN has issued geographic targeting orders requiring title insurance companies to file reports on all cash purchases of residential real estate in a handful of cities, such as Miami and New York, where luxury markets have traditionally drawn foreign money. The threshold for those reports was initially $3 million, but has been lowered to $300,000. The early data from the pilot program suggests it has been well aimed, so pushing back against what the industry is saying, oh, we need well-aimed and well-targeted programs. Well, turns out we already have one. Oh, no, it's too broad. Too broad. According to an advisory that FinCEN released in 2017, more than 30% of the reported transactions out of the geographic targeting order program involve shell companies with owners who had been subjects of previous suspicious activity reports. Right. Okay, so that seems to be a problem. Now, you had Maxine Waters, Marco Rubio, saying we should expand the policy nationwide. And even the industry said that they supported it. However, the Republicans on the House Financial Services Committee last month had opposed it, a bill from Waters that would do just that, saying that it was too broad. It would ensnare American citizens who have, quote unquote, legitimate reasons to keep their purchases anonymous. what legitimate reasons would you want to keep that purchase anonymous? I mean, I'm actually struggling to think of one. I mean, okay, maybe if you're a celebrity and you buy a $10 million mansion and you want to kind of keep that, private so that people don't come to your $10 million mansion with pitchforks. I get it, I guess, but I don't know. I'd be in favor of that being open. That's just me. But look, they supported it before. Let me give you the quote here, actually. This is from Patrick McHenry of North Carolina, is a Republican. To give FinCEN new authorities to monitor American citizens and aim at getting at Belarus and Russia. Remember, they were crafting this before that. I'm skeptical of it. It's more of a civil liberties concern than anything else. What the civil liberties of money launderers, drug traffickers, child traffickers? Where's QAnon? QAnon, where are you? I mean, you have Republicans that are defending real estate, which could be used to fund pedophiles that are running their sex trafficking rings. Where are you? Where are you? No, they don't care. The Republican Party doesn't actually care about that. At least the people that are in power. I'm sure maybe the voters would care. In fact, corruption, that's one thing that the right and left seem to have in common. Voters all across America is we despise corruption. And it's happening all the time. When you have real estate companies that are paying off members on both sides in order to relax the rules and allow big companies to procure property and raise rents. I mean, again, let me show you how much is at stake here. How many billions of dollars? FinCEN estimated that $2.3 billion was laundered through the U.S. real estate market between 2016 and 2021. In a comment letter on the advance notice, the NAR said that figure accounts for less than 1% of total residential and commercial real estate sales in 2021 alone. Okay, well, that's still a lot of money, though. And it really does show you, if that's only 1% of the amount, well, it shows you how much money is being exchanged in the real estate market. And if it's $2.3 billion, I mean, there's got to be some pretty big players, pretty big whales here, and that maybe we should crack down on corruption, crack down on money laundering, because that would mean billions of dollars less in the hands of some very bad people doing some very bad things. Maybe you should take those people on. That's a good thing. But obviously the moneyed interests are against this, and the people that are paid by the money interests are against this. So we'll see. We should really track the members in Congress who are against this, who are against these reporting requirements, and maybe look at their donations. Then you'll see what side they're on. And if they suddenly change their opinion, like other politicians have, love to see that. Okay. All right. Start with Trump laundering through his real estate. Not against that. Not against that at all. All right. The only way to stop a bad guy laundering is a good guy laundering. I hope you mean Schultz. Okay. All right. Let's go through here. I'm way over time, so I'm going to save this the barista story for tomorrow. I got sidetracked. Sorry for the stun lock. Happens. Let's see. Let's go here to monetization. Give a shout out here to people who are who support the channel. Let's see, super chats for today. All Dangle Bangle today. Well, thank you. I want to point out that the Electoral College will stop favoring those red states and eventually favor ultra-rich states like New York, and the ruling class is done kicking everyone not in the ruling class out. Interesting. Red states are cheap to live in. Well, that is one advantage. I mean, it's one part of the country where you can actually afford a home. Not New York or LA or Seattle or Portland or anything like that. So, yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Let's see. All of 1/6 is a coup attempt. There is no doubt. And I have a conspiracy that the Republicans will deal with the more conservative members of the Dem Party to regain power while planning to completely stab those same conservative Dems in the back. Well, yeah, does that not happen all the time? And is it really stabbing them in the back if they all, I mean, you know, if the donors are essentially the same? Yeah, on the one hand, red states are affordable. On the other, it's because they're red states. Yeah. to be fair. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Really appreciate that. All right, over here on Twitch, Smatty Dragon, thank you for resubbing for a month of tier 1. Appreciate that. Metal Kitty Mom, thank you for resubbing for a month of tier 1 for 7 months. Really appreciate that. LOL, nobody wants to live in crap states. Supply and demand. And look, people want to go where the jobs are. And there's, you know, I guess more places to work in bigger cities. Electoral College was certain to award excessive power to slave or terrorists. After the Civil War, the EC is used as a welfare benefit for states which suppress voting, eliminate the EC. As I said, it's basically Republican, you know, affirmative action. That's what it is. Red states becoming unaffordable also. Well, look, you know, if you look at the fact that you have wages that are still, in many ways, stagnant in many of the states, then yeah, and of course you have the increase in housing prices. No, that's a fair point. And again, like the housing too, I mean, there's all sorts of problems with real estate. And there's a problem with, of course, rising rents. The rent's too damn high. I think we can all agree with that one. Yeah. And of course, a pandemic obviously did not help with that at all. People are, you know, seem to be pretty worse off. The only good thing that I can see coming from this actually was the increased labor movements. That I think is one of the best things that I've seen, and it's one of my really only hopes at this point is to get a strong enough labor movement to challenge the status quo. And even then, you always do have to be wary of certain unions as well, because we've seen how there are some that would push against things like, I don't know, Medicare for all, because they were able to negotiate and get kickbacks from health insurance companies. So again, you have to be, there's always details and there's always nuance. All right. I think that's it. That's all I got today. Regular Mole Rat Dragon, thank you for the 234 bits. Really appreciate that. All right, everybody. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Really, really appreciate it. And the conversation. And the chance to get a little heated. That was always fun. So, all right, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow. More fun, more stories, more disaster, as always. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. And I mean it. Love you all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Will eat your ass.
How you like that, boy?
Please clap.
sexual anarchy.
Internet.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.